The note was not angry. That was the part that stayed with him. Reed Calloway found it wedged under his windshield wiper at 6:49 on a Sunday morning, pressed flat with the deliberate force of someone who had been awake long enough to choose their words carefully. The handwriting was precise, controlled, the kind you only develop when you've trained yourself not to let things spill. This is assigned parking. Space 14 belongs to 4B. I have notified building management. Please do not park here again. 4B. No name. Just a unit number and a period at the end of every sentence. He stood in the underground garage of Crestline Flats with the note in one hand and his coffee in the other, and he felt the specific embarrassment of a man who had made a stupid mistake and handed a stranger a reason to think less of him before they had ever exchanged a single word. He had moved in the night before. 7 boxes, a lamp, and a vacuum cleaner. He had taken the first open spot he saw because he was exhausted and the elevator was already closing and the number on the pillar meant nothing to him in the dark. He moved his car to visitor parking, went upstairs, and told himself it was handled. He did not yet understand that nothing about this was handled. He met her 4 days later. Mailroom. She had her back to him when he walked in, tall, dark hair, a gray coat slightly too large for her frame, sorting envelopes with the efficiency of someone who does not waste motion. He noticed the ink stain on her left hand before he noticed anything else. She turned when she heard the door. Her eyes stopped him. Not their color, their quality. Clear and assessing in a way that felt less like a look and more like a measurement. "You're the one who took my spot," she said. Not a question. Not an accusation. A file being closed. "I am," he said. "I'm sorry. I should have checked." She held his gaze for exactly 1 beat too long, and then she said, "It's fine," and left. He stood in the mailroom holding a water bill and understanding, with complete certainty, that it was not fine. Not because she was still angry, but because fine was the word people used when they had already decided you were not worth the energy of something more honest. He learned her name 3 weeks later by accident. The building directory, a maintenance issue, his eyes running down the list. 4B, DOS. He moved on. He told himself it didn't matter. He was already lying to himself, and he didn't know it yet. November brought the kind of cold that gets into concrete buildings and refuses to leave. Reed was working doubles at St. Carver's Hospital, emergency medicine, 12-hour floors, the particular violence of a job that asks you to hold everything together even when the thing in front of you is coming apart. He was 46 minutes into saving a 17-year-old girl's life before her pulse returned. He remembered every one of those minutes individually, the way you remember things that cost you something to carry. He walked to the supply closet afterward and sat on the floor with his back against the shelving until his hands stopped shaking. He did not tell anyone about the shaking. He never did. He took the stairs home at 2 a.m. because the elevator was broken. On the 4th floor landing, he nearly walked into Mara Voss, who was coming down with a bag of recycling, and they both stopped with the sudden, startled energy of 2 people who had been occupying the same building without quite inhabiting it together. She looked at him. Not a glance, a real look. The kind that registers what it sees. "Long shift," she said. It was not a question. "Yeah." His voice came out rough and he hadn't expected it to. She moved to the side to let him pass. He was 2 steps above her on the stairs when she said, "There's a diner on 5th. Open until 4. The coffee's terrible but it's hot." He paused. He did not turn around. "Thanks," he said. He did not go to the diner. But he thought about the way she had said it, offered without expectation, like something left on a doorstep with no note attached. He was 34 years old and he could not remember the last time someone had given him something without requiring him to hold the door open a little longer than he wanted to. He filed it away and did not examine it. That was his first mistake. December. The cold settled in for good. Reed began, without meaning to notice things. Mara left for work at 7:15. She returned between 6:30 and 7 o'clock. She took the stairs if the elevator wait exceeded 30 seconds. He knew this because he could hear the stairwell door from his unit, a particular metallic clunk he had cataloged without deciding to. She played music Sunday mornings. Low, unhurried music, strings mostly, the shape of it moving slowly through the wall between their apartments like something that was not trying to reach him but did anyway. He told himself this was what happened when you lived alone and the walls were thin. It meant nothing. He was very good at believing the things he needed to believe. The 14th of December changed the geometry of everything. Reed had a 7 a.m. shift and came down at 6:40 to find a delivery truck blocking both the exit lane and his space. He stood in the cold running the math on whether he could walk to the hospital in time. He could not, when he heard footsteps behind him. Earlier than usual. She was carrying a travel mug bag on one shoulder, and she took in the situation in approximately 2 seconds. "Take mine," she said. Turned. "What?" "My spot. It's open. I'm walking today. I can't take your..." "You'll be late," she said. "And you work at the hospital." She said it the way people state facts they've had time to confirm. He had never told her he worked at the hospital. He took the spot. He drove to work. He made his shift with 4 minutes to spare. And the entire drive he sat with something he did not have a clean word for, the specific weight of being seen by someone who had no obligation to see you, and who had done it quietly, without making it into anything larger than a practical solution on a cold morning. That was the moment. He would not understand this for a long time. But that was where it began. Not the parking spot, not the note, not the stairwell at 2 a.m. There, in the gray of a December morning, when she handed him something he hadn't asked for and walked away without looking back. Everything that followed was consequence. If something in this story is already pulling at you, you already know what to do. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell. What comes next is where this gets dangerous. January broke him open, not between them, but privately, in the way that a long accumulation of unacknowledged weight eventually finds a crack. He lost 2 patients in the same week. The second was a man named George, 71, who had held Reed's hand once in the ICU and said, with a clarity that did not belong to someone with that much morphine in his system, "Tell my wife it was a good life." Reed had found the wife in the family room. He had said the words. He had watched a woman receive the news she had already known was coming, and he had stayed with her until her daughter arrived, and then he had driven home in silence and sat in the parking garage for 11 minutes without cutting the engine. When he finally came upstairs, there was a container outside his door. No note. Just soup, still warm, recently placed. He stood in the hallway for a long time. 4B's door was closed. He went inside. He ate the soup. He slept 8 hours for the first time in 6 weeks. In the morning he wrote a note and slid it under her door. "Thank you. I needed that more than you know." 4A. She did not acknowledge it. Not directly. But the following Sunday the music through the wall was slightly louder. Just slightly. Just enough that he felt it as something deliberate, as if she had turned it up the same way a person speaks a little more clearly when they want to be heard. He stopped pretending he wasn't paying attention. February. Valentine's Day, which is where this story would place a romantic gesture in a lesser version of itself. This version has something more complicated. Reed was home, a traded shift, a colleague's daughter's recital, and at 6:45 he heard the stairwell door. Her rhythm. He had learned it the way you learn the sound of your own heartbeat. Without trying, without meaning to, until one day you realize it's been there the whole time. The footsteps stopped outside his door. 3 knocks. Measured. Deliberate. He opened the door. Mara stood in the hallway with her coat still on. She looked like someone who had argued with herself the entire walk upstairs and won by the thinnest possible margin. "I wanted to check," she said, "after January, that you were okay." He had no control over what his face did next. He only knew that something in him moved toward her without permission, something that had been holding itself very carefully at a precise distance, and in this moment simply refused to hold. "Come in," he said. Before he could think about whether he meant it. He did mean it. She hesitated. One breath. She came in. They talked for 2 hours and 14 minutes. He would count it later, which embarrassed him, but facts were facts. He told her about George, about the 46 minutes in the pediatric room, the supply closet, the shaking he never talked about. She listened the way certain people listen, not performing attention but actually present, her whole self focused toward him, and it was one of the more intimate experiences of his adult life without either of them having moved closer than 4 feet apart. She talked about her work, structural engineering, the satisfaction of building something that outlasts you. She talked about leaving a city she had loved for a person who hadn't been worth the move. She told him these things without softening them, without editorializing, with the particular courage of someone who has learned that honesty is the only economy that doesn't eventually bankrupt you. At 9 o'clock she stood to leave. He walked her to the door. She paused in the frame, and the thing that was between them, unnamed, unconfirmed, but entirely real, sat in the air with a density he could feel in his chest. He had something to say. He could feel it the way you feel a word you know but can't locate, right at the edge of availability. It was true and complete, and it would have changed what they were to each other. He could see it clearly from where he stood. He said, "Thank you for checking." The thing left her face slowly. Not all at once. It retreated in layers, one by one, until what was left was polite and closed and final. "Of course," she said, and she left. He stood at the closed door for a long time. That word, again, "Thank you." He had handed her the safest thing he owned and called it honesty, and she had received it with the grace of someone who understood exactly what it was and exactly what it wasn't. He had failed her. He knew it before her footsteps had reached the end of the hall. March is where stories like this usually recover. A slow thaw, a tentative reconnection. The audience exhales. This story did not recover in March. It got worse. The withdrawal happened on both sides, which made it worse. Not cold, civil. The careful, managed civility of two people who know too much to be strangers and have said too little to be anything else. Lobby nods. Elevator silences that lasted exactly as long as the elevator ride. He stopped listening for the stairwell door. He did not stop hearing it. He threw himself into the hospital the way people throw themselves into the only thing they feel competent at when everything else is unclear. More shifts. Longer hours. He told himself this was what he was made for. He told himself other things too, but they were less convincing. Then, on the second Thursday of March, something happened that he was not prepared for. He came home at 7 p.m. to find a man in the hallway outside 4B. So, relaxed. Mid-30s, well-dressed in the effortless way of someone who doesn't think about it. He was leaning with one shoulder against the wall beside Mara's door, and he was laughing at something she had just said, and she was laughing too. Reed had not heard her laugh before. Not like that. Open and unguarded and briefly, completely undefended. She saw Reed first. Something moved through her expression, too fast to name, and then it was gone, replaced by the composed, even surface she wore in the shared spaces of the building. "Reed," she said. "Neutral." "Hey," he said. He kept walking. He went inside his apartment. He closed the door. He stood in his kitchen for a long time without turning the light on. He did not know the man. He did not ask. He had no right to ask, and he knew this, and knowing it did not help at all. What it did was clarify, with sudden and ruthless precision, exactly how much he had been taking for granted. He had been holding a space open in himself for something he had never said out loud, and it had not occurred to him until this exact moment that she could not be expected to keep waiting for a door that had no handle on her side. He had said thank you. Twice. 2 times she had stood at the threshold of something real with him, and both times he had handed her the word most designed to close a chapter cleanly. And she had let him, because she was not the kind of woman who argued with a closed door. She was the kind who turned and found another way through. The music didn't come that Sunday, or the Sunday after. The silence through the wall was a specific kind of absence, not peaceful, not neutral. the kind that used to contain something. In the last week of March, things became irreversible. Or almost. He was passing through the lobby when he overheard two residents from the third floor, the couple in 3C, who knew everything about everyone, talking near the mailboxes. He wasn't trying to listen. He caught it the way you catch a name in a crowd, involuntarily, and then it is already too late. Was in 4B. She put in a transfer request, I heard. Some project down in Portland. End of April, apparently. He stopped walking. Shame, the other one said. She's quiet but she's good people. He did not hear the rest. He was already in the elevator, and the doors were closing, and the number 4 was illuminated above him, and he stood there with his hand flat against the cold metal wall, feeling the particular sensation of the ground shifting beneath something he had not yet admitted he was standing on. End of April. He had weeks. Maybe. Don't leave. Subscribe and hit the bell right now, because what happens in April will wreck you. You cannot miss this. He told himself he would say something. He gave himself a deadline, the way he gave himself deadlines at work. Clinical, measurable, attached to a consequence. By Friday, he would say something by Friday. Friday came. He came home at 9. Her light was on under the door. He stood in the hallway for 90 seconds, he counted them, and then went inside his apartment and sat on his kitchen floor with his back against the cabinets, which was something he had not done since residency, when the floor was the only surface that felt honest. He sat there for 22 minutes. He knew this because at some point he began watching the clock on the microwave, not because he had anywhere to be but because watching numbers move gave his mind something to do besides catalog every way he had quietly, methodically failed at the one thing that had come into his life in months that felt worth keeping. He thought about the man in the hallway. He did not know his name. He had no information beyond the image. Her laughing, unguarded, briefly and completely herself in a way she had never been in any of the carefully managed exchanges they had shared. And he sat with the understanding that she was allowed that. She had always been allowed that. He had never offered anything more than a physician's version of gratitude and a coward's version of connection. He had no one to be angry at but the version of himself that thought safety was the same thing as kindness. The Sunday after, no music came through the wall. He stood in his kitchen at 9 a.m. and listened to the silence on the other side of the plaster and felt the specific quality of an absence. Not peaceful, not neutral. The kind that used to contain something. He had been afraid before. He had stood in rooms where the outcome was genuinely unknown and held steady without flinching. But this was a different category of fear entirely, the kind without a protocol, without a next clear step, without the professional certainty that you are at least doing the right thing by being there. This was just a man and a hallway and a door and the very real possibility that the window had already closed while he was standing outside it being careful. End of April. The words sat in him like a splinter. The week before April ended, the thing with the pillar happened. He came down to the garage at 6:38 a.m. and found the maintenance van parked across the lower row, blocking the entrance to his space. He was calculating the bus route when he saw it, space 14. Her spot, empty. And at the base of the concrete pillar beside it, a small folded square of paper held in place by a stone. He picked it up. It's yours if you need it. I left early. 4B. She had left early. She had parked somewhere else, or walked, and she had folded a note and weighted it with a stone in an underground garage on a morning when she had no way of confirming he would need it. She had done this because she knew his schedule, because she had been paying attention for months, quietly, without announcement, tracking the small logistics of his life so she could make them easier. She was leaving in weeks, and she was still doing this. He drove to work. He did his shift. He saved a woman who had stopped breathing on a Tuesday, and he drove home at 8 p.m. and he did not go inside his apartment. He took the stairs. He stood outside 4B's door. He knocked. Nothing. He knocked again. The door opened. Mara stood with a phone in one hand and paint on her forearm, pale blue, dried, the kind you get from painting walls. Packing walls, he realized. getting the apartment ready to hand back. She looked at him with the winter-like clarity she always had, and beneath it, for just a moment, briefly and completely visible, was something exhausted. Not tired, exhausted. The look of someone who has been patient for a very long time and has begun to wonder what they are being patient for. He saw it. He could not unsee it. "I had something to say in February," he said. "And I said the wrong thing." She waited. She was so good at waiting, and he understood now what it cost her. "I don't know how to do this part," he said. "I know how to show up when things are catastrophic. I know how to hold a room together when everything in it is failing. I do not know how to stand in a hallway and say," he stopped. "Start it again. You made soup for a man you barely spoke to at midnight because you somehow knew he needed it. You left a note under a stone in a parking garage at 6 in the morning so I wouldn't be late. You have been taking care of me in ways I didn't earn and didn't acknowledge, and I spent 4 months being grateful in private instead of saying the true thing out loud, and now you're painting your walls and I don't." His voice broke on that last word. Not dramatically, just stopped. The silence after it was the longest he had ever stood inside. Mara looked at him for a long time. Something was happening in her face that she was not trying to control, and that itself was extraordinary because he had never seen her stop controlling something before. "The transfer isn't confirmed," she said quietly. He stared at her. "I put in the request," she said. "I didn't accept it." "Why?" She held his gaze. "Because I was waiting to see if there was a reason to stay." She said it plainly. No performance. No inflation. The way she said everything that actually mattered to her, stripped down to its bones, offered without decoration, utterly without armor. "There's a reason," he said. She stepped back from the door. He stepped inside. That was all. There was no declaration beyond that. No grand arrival. Just a door opening, and a man who finally chose, and a woman who had kept the reason folded quietly inside herself for months, waiting to see if he would earn it. The building found out the way buildings always do. Gradually, then all at once. The couple in 3C claimed they knew first. The super said he'd seen it coming since December. The woman in 2A said she'd heard Reed laugh in the hallway in early May and hadn't recognized the sound because she'd never heard it before. What nobody saw was the morning, 3 weeks after he knocked on that door, when Reed came down to the garage to find his spot already open, her car gone, and on the hood of his car a coffee cup still warm, with a piece of tape on the side. He peeled it off. It said, "Spot's yours." Obviously. Always was. He stood in that garage, the same gray concrete where this had all begun, where a stupid mistake on a Saturday in October had set something in motion that neither of them had planned and both of them had needed, and he read that piece of tape 3 times. Then he drove to work. He ran his shift. He came home at 9 p.m. and took the stairs. She was on the 4th floor landing with her back against the wall, reading, exactly as she had always waited, without pressure, without urgency, with the calm certainty of someone who has decided a person is worth the patience and then simply lived that decision every day. She looked up. "Figured you'd run long," she said. "I always run long." "I know," she said, not with resignation, with the specific warmth of someone who has studied a person long enough to love them at their most inconvenient. He sat down beside her on the landing. She went back to her book. He leaned his head against the wall and closed his eyes, and the building was quiet around them, and the weight in his chest was not the heavy kind, not the kind from the supply closet, not the kind from George, not the kind from standing in a hallway unable to say the true thing. It was the weight of something finally in its right place. He thought about the note. The first one. The precise handwriting, the measured sentences, the single period at the end of every line. He had read it as a boundary being drawn. He understood now it was something else. A person announcing exactly who they were before the story had even started. Controlled, careful, capable of extraordinary patience. And beneath all of it, completely unwilling to be taken for granted. She had never hated him. Not really. She had simply refused, from the very first morning, to be invisible to someone who hadn't looked. And then he had looked. And she had let him see everything. The transfer was never accepted. The apartment walls were repainted, not pale blue this time, but a warm off-white that caught the afternoon light and made the whole space feel like something that intended to stay. He noticed this the first time he stood in her doorway long enough to see past it. He didn't say anything about it. He didn't need to. Some things don't require words because the choosing already said them. The parking spot, space 14, same painted number, same gray concrete, sits in the underground garage of Crestline Flats in exactly the position it has always occupied. Unremarkable. Just a rectangle on a floor. Except that it is the place where a careless man parked on the wrong night, and a careful woman left a note that told him exactly who she was, and two people began a slow and painful and necessary process of learning how to stop protecting themselves long enough to be known. The most important things never announce themselves. They arrive in the wrong spot, at the wrong hour, with the wrong number on the pillar, and they wait, with the patience of something that has already decided, for the moment you finally stop looking away. She had always been going to open the door. She just needed to know that this time, when he knocked, he was not going to say thank you. If this story held you, if you felt that shift somewhere in the middle and kept going because you needed to see it through, then you already know this channel is something different. Like this video right now. Subscribe to July's Story TV. Turn on the notification bell so the next story finds you before you have to go looking. The best ones are the ones you almost missed. Don't miss the next one.